Hey, welcome everyone to Monday Meals. I know I am a new face. Hey everyone, I'll be hosting today's Monday Meals. My name is Jess. I am the political organizer here at Oakland Rising, formerly the lead organizing fellow. And you might have seen me on some of our posts or in some of the previous conversations for Monday Meals. So it's good to take on today and be hosting. I'm excited. And of course, it's my first time hosting, so not too much. Um, Today we'll be talking a little bit about the county budget and one of our coalitions that we actually work closely with, Care First Community Coalition. And I'll be bringing up someone that I actually uh, share a lot of space with. Before we go ahead and get started, I hope everyone's Monday is going well. I hope everyone had an amazing weekend and enjoyed the sun. I know I did. Um, yeah, appreciate y'all for taking the time to join and just be here with us.
Oh, there we go.
Hey, so good to
Hi.
see you.
Good to see you too.
I'm gonna go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
Okay, sounds good. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound amazing.
Beautiful. Hey y'all, I'm Kari. Any pronouns are cool. I'm the Healing Justice Program Manager at Restore Oakland. I'm also a member of the Care First Community Coalition. And this is my first time ever using Instagram, so I'm feeling a little nervous, but here I am.
Definitely understand that. It's my first time hosting Monday Meals, and I was just talking about how I also feel just a little nervous, so not too much on both of us. Um, And yeah, like I said earlier, if you're new here, hey everyone, we're going to be talking about the county budget. And then I'm also the political organizer here at Oakland Rising. I use she, they pronouns. And yeah, I am excited to be talking to Kari. And could you explain what you do in your role at Restore Oakland and why you do it?
Certainly. Yeah. Well, um, maybe the why first. So the work that I do is community organizing, advocacy, and restorative justice facilitation. It's kind of a big combination of many things in this role. And so the why is just because this feels like the right place for me to be doing a combination of system change work and interpersonal healing and transformation work in this moment, where we see increased criminalization, increased fascist BS, and authoritarianism from the national, global, and then all the way down to the local and county level. So I know that for me as an abolitionist, as a Black feminist, as a queer Black person who lives in community with so many people who are at high risk of state violence, um, it feels like there's never a wrong time to be doing this work, but it feels really important to be doing sort of community advocacy, community organizing, as well as like building deeper relationships with my people in this time.
Beautiful. That was amazing. And thank you for all of the work that you do and for sharing all of those amazing points and why this work is so important and why we should continue to do it. I know recently on that, the board passed a jail expansion of $269 million. And so with that news and of course our Care First Community Coalition fighting things like that and really just showing up and showing out at the chambers and emailing the board. Can you tell us a little bit about Care First Community Coalition and yeah, and where we are now in the budget process?
Yes, it's funny. I'm like, okay, yeah, Jess, I know you know, but it's yes. So the Care First Community Coalition is a grassroots group of both organizations, formal and informal, and individuals that are rooted in Alameda County, and we essentially convene around the commitment to reducing the jail population in general and reducing specifically the number of people in Santa Rita Jail, Alameda County's jail, who have serious behavioral health concerns. Recognizing, and the reason that we focus on that population is because, first of all, it's an expansive population. I would say that pretty much anyone who is in jail is experiencing some level of mental health distress, because jail is an inherently distressing place to be, dysregulating for the community, for relationships. It's unhealthy, it's unsafe, but also because people with serious behavioral health needs are at highest risk in the jail, of being both neglected, abused, not having access to their basic needs, and also having being removed from the care that they maybe get in the community or could get in the community. So we believe that care first means we are working to prevent the use of jail as basically a space for warehousing people who society deems undesirable. So a lot of folks with serious mental health needs, drug abuse needs, substance use needs, and also just people who are maybe unhoused and exhibit traits that society doesn't see as normal, and doesn't want to have like out here in our streets. We want to make sure that those folks are not just able to be disappeared and warehoused. We want actually for folks to get support, community care, and whatever else they want and need, without being punished and incarcerated. And then I think, like, when we say care first, jail's last. I think for a lot of us, we say it and like care first, jail's never. We don't believe that jail is ever an appropriate response. But at the Care First Community Coalition, we're all fighting to get those investments in community care and support, to not only prevent incarceration, but also so that all of us in our community can have more access to healing, to basic resources like housing and preventative mental health care as well. And we've been doing that for the last few years. In this formation, we have about 12 organizations in the Care First Community Coalition, and it's sort of stewarded by Restore Oakland and the American Friends Service Committee. But we run a democratically convened group. And so, as you know, Jess, we share responsibilities, and we're trying to build the capacity of all the folks in our network and in our community to lead the work to decarcerate this jail, to create more resources for our folks. And we want that to be a resource, like the ability to organize. We want that to be a resource that more and more people feel like they have the power to do. And so when we get into it a little bit more in a second, I'll just share how inaccessible that is right now, because the county is hard. But we have been like leading the charge to get the county to be more transparent and make the process of governing more democratic.
Period. And I know how important the Care First Community Coalition work is, and it represents so many different people in that coalition. So, again, thank you all for leading that work. I think it's been really enlightening to be just a part of that space and learning from under y'all, and just like getting my foundation and putting in the process, the county budget process, which hasn't inherently been very transparent. I know that also Nikki Bass just recently had a community forum for that reason, to kind of gauge the community. And so, yeah, with that being said, do we know, I guess, where the budgeting process is as it stands right now? Or is that something that hasn't really been transparent to us? And what is the coalition really advocating for right now?
For sure. Yes. So where we are right now is the county budget hearings are starting in a little over an hour. This is the week where a lot of big decisions are made in public. A lot of those decisions that the Board of Supervisors makes about the county budget seem to be made in private. And then we just basically find out at the last minute, if at all. So one of the big demands that we're making at today's hearing at 1:30 in the Board of Supervisors chambers and on Zoom, I hope we can like maybe drop a link or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we will be advocating at that hearing and in future hearings this week. We'll have another one tomorrow. And it seems like on Thursday, there'll be some final recognition of what the budget is for the public. But we'll be advocating for transparency and an increased accessibility to the public of how this budget gets formed, what is part of it, what is not part of it. And we really just need the Board of Supervisors and the CAO, the County Administrator's Office, to do a better job of allowing the public to know what our money is going towards, and how our taxpayer dollars are being spent, and what the county is building as far as a social safety net, which is what our leaders are ostensibly in charge of doing, right? So what one of those things looks like is we really want to improve the financial transparency, get an understanding of like what the county's reserves and unrestricted funds are going towards. We know that for a lot of places, like whether it's local, state, national, when you have a reserve fund, that's for emergencies, right? We're supposed to be using those funds to actually provide for our people in the like most crisis moment. And right now is a crisis. We've been in a crisis, right? The crisis is just getting worse as far as people needing housing, needing care, needing support systems, and especially as federal funding cuts continue to be threatened and then implemented, we really know that our county needs to support its people via the county budget. So we're asking for improved financial transparency. We want to make it a more democratic process so that folks can actually understand how to plug in. Like right now, almost every single meeting that the county holds is in the middle of the workday on like a random time that is only posted a day or two before it's happening. And the only reason I think anyone knows about that is because of organizations like ours, where, you know, you and I are paid to be organizers, so we can take the time to go through that and let our people know. But that's ridiculous. And so we want them to be posting all the materials, all the budget, and getting the calendar out early so that we can get folks involved. And then more excitingly, I think for a lot of us, is like, what are we funding? And we really want to be funding the things that keep us safe and healthy. So we think about permanent supportive housing, mental health care resources that are based in the community that are for folks all across the spectrum, from preventative care to the most high needs folks who maybe need housing that is incorporated with mental health supports. And then we really think that that care doesn't just look like, you know, going to a therapist, but rather like having community, having safe places to gather, having our, you know, parks and education systems also funded. Like those are things that we want to stand with other groups that are advocating for as well. But our Care First recommendations are certainly focused on housing and healthcare.
Beautifully said. And as we all know, the board did agree that the Care First, Jails Last policy and recommendations should be implemented. So where are their words and their actions, right? And I think that's hella important to highlight. I went ahead and pinned the Zoom link for today's budget hearing if y'all are interested. So go ahead and check that out in the comments below. I think you said some amazing things about just like the lack of transparency, and that can be seen within the county and within the city of Oakland. And I think that's important to name because Oakland actually recently just passed the budget without any community input either. And so these are tactics and ways that our supervisors and city officials are really keeping us in the dark, and making sure that, you know, community isn't involved and doesn't get what they need funded. And so it's just super important for all of us to take our time to show up any way we can, if that's via Zoom. If you can come to the chambers, come out and show out. And if not, you know, like like we said, it's accessible via Zoom, so no excuses. And if you can't do that, maybe you're at work and you work a retail job or something, go ahead and email the board of supervisors, email your supervisor, and get your word in because your voice matters on this, and it affects all of us at the end of the day.
Yes.
Um,
Amen. And I'll just say that we're going to be releasing talking points and a script for folks to email their supervisors this week, so that folks can get that involvement even if they are not able to attend, because as we said, these are not accessible meetings.
Absolutely. If our elected officials don't fund the things that keep our community safe, what do you anticipate will be defunded, and who will be harmed during this, like, I guess, defunding in the county level?
Yeah, it's such a heavy question. I feel like the most heartbreaking and enraging thing about this is that the same people will always be at the bottom of the hierarchy being harmed by these policies and the lack of resources being put into community care. So I think of migrants, I think of people who are not housed stably, even if you have a roof over your head sometimes. I think of Black and Brown communities, specifically Black communities in Alameda County, who are so deeply disproportionately incarcerated and criminalized for having mental health or substance use needs. I think of disabled people in general, folks with health issues that don't allow them to get the services that they need. I think of people without English language access, so people in migrant communities or folks that speak different languages, or ASL, for example, where our services are not accessible. And we are just at the point of needing so much more than the county is giving us. Even people, I think, who have a lot of access to care and support are still struggling. I think of myself as somebody who's like, I'm highly educated, right? I have a full-time salaried job and a house and loved ones that can support me, and I still have a hard time accessing basic mental health services, using like insurance that hardly ever even covers anything. I think of my own like sense of housing insecurity, just as somebody who, like, tech is creating increased displacement. We have our city and county officials like bending to the needs of wealthy people, developers, rather than just funding straight up housing for all. Like, universal housing is number one. And if we don't have that, then essentially I think we are all going to be harmed, even folks that do have access to those things, because having a community where we're so unequal makes everyone unsafe. I think that what will really be scary is because of federal funding cuts to HUD and Medi-Cal or Medicaid, people that are extremely low income in Alameda County will literally be losing their housing and their health care. That's just going to make everyone more unsafe if the county doesn't step in and fill that gap. And specifically, we've talked about how we see the need for housing that incorporates serious mental health services and case management. So we talk about that as permanent supportive housing. And that's for folks that are extremely low income and have high needs. And that is a space where people get what they need as far as a roof over their heads, case management, behavioral health care, benefits management. And then that is all happening for the long haul. It's not like a 6-month program. It's not like a shelter program where you have to leave during the day. Like, that's just like you have safety that is stable for the long period of time. And so we really think about that as something that's potentially going to be even less funded than it already is. And we know that there are thousands of people in our county who qualify for those services who don't have access to them because we don't prioritize that in our budget. And then I would also just say, Restore Oakland also works on working with small businesses and Black and Brown entrepreneurs and cooperatives. And small businesses are obviously suffering with the economic downturns. And we know that small businesses are cornerstones of our community, right? They're safe spaces for people who are at the margins to gather, to get food, to get resources. And so and they're run a lot of times by like immigrant community members, right? And so people are losing money, they're losing stability, they're losing the spaces that they care about to gather and to build. And we need to be really building that in to our advocacy as well. And I would just say that with as far as like things being defunded, there is this extremely exciting opportunity to fund with, I know you know about this, Measure W. We
Mm-hmm.
got $650 million available that can go to housing, especially for the unhoused, and to support services for those that I've been talking about who have the highest needs. And so even if the county doesn't have the money in its budget this year, we need the county to commit those Measure W funds, which taxpayers specifically asked to be used for housing the homeless when it was passed 5 years ago. And so
Absolutely.
we need that.
Absolutely. And it's really scary times out here. Like rent is being raised at like increasing amount. Everything's so much more expensive. And if we pass that in 2020 for it to go to housing, it should probably be used for housing. Hello. It
So
just makes sense. I know that right now the county is kind of fighting about that. Do you want to speak a little bit more on like what the arguments are with Measure W and kind of like what the Board of Supervisors has been saying specifically about it?
yeah, I'm happy to. So like you said, the this was passed as a resolution in 2020 that was not legally obligated to go towards funding housing for the unhoused, but it was written in the measure. And so when people are voting, that's what they see and that's what they voted for. They voted to give a certain number of their taxpayer dollars towards supportive housing, and also facilities to be built for unhoused people to get services. And now because of lawsuits that have gone back and forth over the last 5 years, we haven't been able to access that money. But what's exciting is that the lawsuits are being settled and we have access to that money as a county. $650 million with a continued yearly allocation that should be almost 200 million to fund whatever the Board of Supervisors decides. And so that's the tough one, is that the people already voted. We said, please fund housing. And now they're basically acting like it's a question again. And we know that Supervisor Fortunato Bass has been really clear in her support for the original use, the ostensible use of this funding to be continued as housing funds, to go to housing and homeless services, and housing and community development, where the county builds and acquires buildings that are going to be used for affordable housing. And then we have other supervisors who are trying to act like it would be better used to repay landlords for whatever they've lost during the pandemic, which I just can't make it make sense. We have people in the streets, and that is clearly, everyone is saying that that is the priority. We have people who really need safe housing, and the county can figure out how to, refund and make whole everyone who has lost money throughout this last 5 years of incredibly challenging economic times. But right now we have a crisis, and the priority must be supporting the people that are in the most need. And I would say that we know that mental health services are also at risk of being defunded. We know there's so much at risk, but we want to stick with the idea that the people voted for this because they wanted housing in Alameda County. So let's do it. And let's find the funds elsewhere to get preventive care, mental health services, other types of language justice, and access for our marginalized communities. But let's use Measure W for what it was originally proposed to be used for.
Absolutely. It makes no sense for it to be used for landlords who are still getting paid from their tenants. And I understand everyone's at a loss for money since the pandemic, but we need to put this towards the people that need it the most. So, um, with that being said, what are some upcoming meetings and actions that folks can plug into? Obviously, we just named the Board of Supervisors budget hearing today at 1:30, which is also tagged below, pinned below, if you missed that. And then also, what is the best way that folks can join in on Care First Community Coalition's organizing efforts?
Yes, thank you, Jess. So we will be continuing to advocate around Measure W because it will be decided in July. The board will keep working on this, and hopefully on July 22nd, they will be having a meeting, a public meeting, where we will all need to pull up and mobilize in support of what we were just saying, the fact that Measure W must be used to fund housing. And we will be holding some additional community meetings throughout the next month until then. We have our HOPE membership, which is our healing, organizing, and political education program, where members are doing abolitionist organizing work towards getting folks out of Santa Rita and providing them with the true community care and support that they need. And we are building up our membership, doing canvassing, doing healing circles for our folks. And people should definitely plug into that if you're interested. I can send the contact of that later on that I hope we can add to this. But we will be meeting next on July 8th at, let's see, I want to say 5:30 p.m. at Restore Oakland. We also will be holding, I think, hopefully, an art build at the end of this month to prepare for the Measure W meeting. And get folks excited to talk through what it looks like for house to be a county that prioritizes housing justice and actually funds the care that we need. And we will be, as always, creating space for people to join the Care First Signal thread, where we talk about, where we give updates and mobilization alerts. You can also sign up for Restore Oakland's email listserv, where we also provide very sparse, so we won't spam anybody, but we do provide updates and information so that folks can know exactly when to plug in and where, and to counter the lack of transparency that the county provides.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Kari, for coming on and sharing all of the knowledge. It's always amazing to speak with you and just like learn from you. And yeah, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the people before we go?
I think that I'm just so grateful for you, Jess, and for the ORRO Dream Team. Yes, I think that if we can get more people, more of our people, more younger, Black and Brown, queer, system impacted folks in this work, and getting our voices not only heard, but our like dreams actualized. We know what we need. We know what our people need in order to be free and healthy and safe. And I'm just so grateful every time I get to spend with you, and want more of this, more of like young people leading the way so that we can build the world that we need instead of this absolute disaster that we've been given.
Period. Um, Everyone, please join the Board of Ed, or sorry, not Board of Ed, Board of Supervisors meeting today at 1:30. Show out and show them why we need Measure W to go towards housing, but also that why we need a transparent budget. And hopefully everyone else will fall in line with that. All right. Thanks, y'all, for joining, and I hope that you have something delicious for your meal today, something amazing planned, like a walk, or just go out and get some sun. Joy is important, especially in these times where everything feels just a little bit hopeless and scary, okay? All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.